What's up, y'all?
Hey, Justin, how are you?
Doing good. Oh, they have virtual.
Oh.
All right. Bark. Actually, it's like a bear, right? I think it's a bear.
Oh my god.
A lioness.
Oh, I like that one. That's a good one.
The shark boy. These are weird.
Okay, does this like come with Zoom now, or like that's just like you don't?
Hello, class.
Oh, I didn't realize you were a movie. I was like, wait, why is there a frame around him? Just realized it was a movie theater. I was like, wait.
It's my symposium. Admit all. Chat. Mini TV. What's this gonna? Oh. Okay. Oh, I'm an Instagram filter. Sepia. Oh no, that's sepia. This is sepia.
Oops.
Yeah, I like the backgrounds. I used to have backgrounds, but I think I lost my. Choose virtual background. Add one. Add a video. I used to have. What if I still have it floating around? I guess I don't. I used to have like a Rickroll video floating around on my computer that I had as my background. It looks like it's gone. Oh, I have to let somebody in.
Rows over and 2 rows up, little pot there, all over the.
Well,
Imagine 1,000 people spread out in a stadium for.
I just realized the sound coming out on here.
I don't know. I'm not
The
navigating.
monitor weird.
It's amazing to see a stadium that holds like 20,000 people. Look like it had about 1,500 people spread out, all different heights. It was so sparse. I was like, are those actual?
Oh my.
So I'm gonna grab my coffee real quick, and then. Oh yeah, I just muted her. It's fine. Let me share my screen. Share my screen. For some reason, every once in a while, Last Christmas gets in my head, even though it's actually the worst song ever created. And the very next day, he gave it away.
Do you play the Last Christmas game every year, where you're not allowed to hear that song between Thanksgiving and Christmas, or else you lose the game?
How's it even possible? You just turn on the radio and then it's playing, or like you walk in. I guess not this year, but you like walk into a mall.
Well, I was gonna say that's the trick. I
Yeah.
never did it until freshman year, and then the last 3 years I successfully did it. Or the last 2 years, I guess. I can't not play the game because every year I remember, oh, it's the Last Christmas game. I think it's called Whamageddon, is what they call it, but I think about it.
What's the name of why? I don't know why it's always this class that I end up. Oh, unmuting. Oh yeah. I'm looking for. Zoom is such a weird UI. I just want to see. I guess participants. Yeah, okay, because I have to admit people. But it doesn't like alert me that I have to admit people. What's the name of the person who sang that? Last Christmas.
Good morning, gamers.
Wham! With an exclamation point.
Oh, do I actually have to search Last Christmas song? Yeah. Huh. Wham. Do you guys see my presentation or
You see Discord and Zoom sign in.
boom.
Yay.
Misty Mountain song, is that I'm thinking of the stupid Hobbit one. Wait. Oh, it is Misty Mountain. Yeah, yeah. In caverns deep and mountains old. Okay. Again, stuck in your head. Well, now it's back, baby. I'm gonna grab coffee. I'll be right back.
I think Justin's a coffee head
Be
and
like
a gamer. Gamer coffee head. Hi, Lexi. How are you today?
Hi, Mercy.
I'm really gonna lose it with my parents. They're talking super loud still, and I'm in class.
I'm gonna fight them, honestly.
I
It
hate
happens. My
Well, you
parents
should-
would just come into my room when my camera was on when I was back home, and I'm like, I'm in the middle of Holocaust history. I do not want to walk the dogs.
My dad walking in when Zenis is talking to my group. My dad's like, "Hey, what's up?" He's like, "Oh."
No.
When your dad came in and talked to the class, it made me laugh.
He just had his own comedy routine.
But he was ready too.
He just be like, I have so much to share, and I'm not asking for permission. I'm sharing it.
He said, "I will be telling you all about
The
Dr. Pimple
toes.
Popper."
Why did he do that? He
That's funny.
I think literally every single conversation with Chris Elliott is a 30-minute stand-up routine minimum. Like, he's just rapid fire with everything.
Minimum.
He's one of the most like energetic people I've ever like talked to in real life.
Devin, it's like you and dad are.
Oh my god.
You and your dad are like, I don't. You know what? I have no idea. I mean, I guess you both are in meetings. It's like your partners in crime for different. I don't know. I'm trying to be funny. I'm really sleepy.
On misty mountains high.
Justin, become a singer.
I used to be in high school choir.
Oh, that's
Ooh.
cool. Heck yeah.
I was a choir boy. Except not the religious kind. All right. Okay, so how many people are out at 10?
Me, I'm one of them. I think I
Yeah,
did.
I'm also one.
Oh wait, do a fist bump or something in the chat. So I'm not keeping track of just people who say yeah. Actually, well, I guess say yeah in the chat, and then I can like get a better feel for it. Okay, so we got Emily, Kendall, Kenny, Lexi,
And Melissa.
okay, and Melissa. Got it. Oh, is it called the VWHP? I assume the.
It's the name of the program we're in. I think it's like a leadership conference or something. I'll admit I did not know it existed until yesterday.
Hey, I didn't know it existed until 7 minutes ago. So
Man. I love
They canceled it
communication
last.
everywhere.
is that something that Moore was supposed to tell me about?
Well, they canceled it last year, and
probably should
they
have, though.
even told people in the program the wrong date. They said it was like next week on Wednesday, but then they're like, "Oh no, wait, it's tomorrow."
Oopsies.
It was on like the
So-
25th or something. I was
Okay,
like,
so-
oh, I have time.
Man,
Okay,
I love
so
communication.
about
everywhere.
a
Cool.
quarter, like a third of the participants here are gonna blast. So we've got a relatively straightforward presentation. I'm going to skip some of it just to get to the important parts. And then I'll step through the homework and I'll step through the lab. And then all remaining time will be walking through everybody's, or at least people who want me to go over their submission from last week over video to like clarify things. Or to just, you know, do what we did last week where we powwow about like, oh, let's look at your project. Oh, I see how it's going. That's cool. Cool. Okay, so I wanted to take this week to briefly talk about kind of project management styles and the one that I think you guys should use in this class. And then I'll talk a little bit more about game design documents. One, because last week somebody had asked about it. And two, because game design documents are important. So I'm fleshing out the vision statement you made a week or so ago, and the game flow diagrams, and there's one on the mock-ups, and where they all fit in a game design document. Because I realized that I didn't like give you the big picture in a way that you're filling out. I just like had it on a slide. Okay, so project management usually, and you got your big business thing called waterfall, and then you got the little business thing called agile. Agile is more common in like game companies and things that need to change a lot. Waterfall is a project management style that is big and slow but accurate. So waterfall is like the government thing where there's a lot of documentation about what you're going to do and how you're going to carry it out. And then the next 2 years of your life, you're carrying it out exactly to how you planned it originally. Agile, on the other hand, every week, you know, you don't know what a fun game is until you reach the end. So you don't have the full plan, you just have ideas, and you're kind of implementing it every week and changing course when you find out that particular things work or particular things don't work. They usually say you're building a vehicle, but you don't know where you're going to end. So you start out with a unicycle, and then you slowly work your way out. Maybe you end up with a bike, maybe you end up with a motorcycle, maybe you end up with a car. They end up with the thing that worked in the end. That's kind of agile style. Waterfall is all pre-planned. So like electric grids and stuff, those types of projects, you know, you're not going to be changing where the electric wires go. I used to work for a company called PJM in Philadelphia, and that they were, you know, very waterfall. They were Pennsylvania, Jersey, Maryland, the electric, they managed the entire electric grid on the East Coast. And everything moved very slow. So some problems with that waterfall strategy is, you know, it's not flexible. You're not changing things midway without having a meeting with 50 people for 8 hours. I was the person who wrote the notes during those meetings, so I know. And then you can't like test it midway through to figure out, oh, is it actually working? You test it at the end, and you just hope that all your research beforehand was good enough. There is some mid-phase testing, but it's more for just making sure it works, not necessarily doing it to be able to change stuff. You can't really change anything midway through. Whereas with Agile, the cons are like you don't have a definitive plan. You can't anticipate everything you're going to hit beforehand because you haven't like done hundreds and hundreds of pages of documentation. And the other problem I'm sure you've noticed with video games is there's no finish line for when a project is complete. There are always updates. Even when the game releases, it's not really done, and oftentimes they're released unfinished. And then each week they're still doing their little agile thing, making the update for the week and pushing it out. So that's the other big problem with agile is there's no end in sight. But for games, it's good because that's just how games work. Yeah, so that's kind of the comparison of waterfall style project management and agile, or they sometimes call it scrum management, but that's like a British sport, so I never really refer to it as that. Like I said, waterfall structures, they have this like very set path of things you do. You requirements gather, then you design, then you try to make all the parts you think you'll need, then you put it into the bigger system, you test it, you install it, and then you check for bugs, and then it's just kind of that cycle over a year. They also do these things called Gantt charts where they create hard blockers in their schedule called milestones. So in Waterfall, when you're planning tasks, you say, okay, this task, no other task can be completed until this task is done, because everything else is dependent on it. That's why they call it Waterfall, is because if you look at it, it goes down in a straight direction. So that is kind of the origin of the term waterfall, is that the tasks all follow one another. Scrum, on the other hand, are agile. They call it Scrum because like I think it was made in the UK, and like this is a sport, and it's apparently very very crazy. And so the agile methodology, people also refer to it as Scrum sometimes. There's also a nice little interview with Double Fine where they talk about Scrum a little bit. It's kind of nice. Some key words to know in agile methodology or Scrum is you have a giant list of tasks that you've planned out, sort of. You go like, oh, I know that we're going to need this and that and this and that. And it goes into what you call the project backlog, just everything that needs to be done. And in agile methodology, you have a task board. Have you ever seen in like movies or whatever, they have like a sticky note board behind them, and they have like stickies of tasks, so they move them across columns. It's kind of common. Each of those stickies are a task, and they're assigned during what are called sprints. A sprint is basically the next 2 weeks, what are the things we want to get done? Those things we want to get done, we plop into the sprint backlog, not the entire project backlog. So we take some out from the project backlog, put it in our current sprint. Oh, these are important for this week. And we move them across columns from like not started, in progress, done. And maybe like roadblock, like there's something wrong with it. You could also have that kind of thing. That moving it from left to right across columns is called a task board. Every day, everybody meets up, and instead of the other big thing about Agile is where it got the term Agile, is because in the other project management strategy, there's a lot of meetings, like I said, like 8-hour meetings, and you got to sort a bunch of stuff out. In Agile, there's a 5-minute meeting in the beginning of the day. That's it. In the beginning of the day, everybody gets together and they say, this is what I did yesterday. This is what I'm going to do today. These are any problems or roadblocks that I've encountered. Next person. And you just go around like that. And the goal is to do it in under 5 minutes. Once a week, you have a larger meeting where you plan the tasks for the following week, or for the following sprint, because a sprint could be a week, it could be 2 weeks, it could be a month, just depends on your company. And that's it. You really shouldn't be meeting other than that time, because when you say, oh, these are the roadblocks I'm hitting, then you go, oh, I need this person. That person's going to help me for the day, and we're going to sort through it. That's Agile. The other thing is every task that you create in an Agile format. So like instead of just saying debug the thing, a task is often expressed as a user story, because in most of Agile methodology, when you're making a task, it's because it benefits the user. So you're trying to think in the user's head. You're not saying, I'm going to create a high score system. You would say, the player's able to navigate to a screen where they can see how they've compared to other players. So that you can keep in mind, like, these aren't just components that we're adding to it. They all should benefit the player in some way. User story is just a phrasing thing, just how do you make this, how do we think about the user when we're doing these tasks? And everybody can feel free to stop me. I'm just briskly moving due to the 10 o'clock thing. oftentimes in Agile, not only do you have the user story, which is like, oh, this is what the user is going to do at that time. They have epics, which are collections of the stories. So like the story mode. Story mode is an epic, and there's some user stories, like the user can go from level to level so that and see their progress along the way. And there's also the user can navigate from left to right on the screen and avoid obstacles. So that an epic can have many stories, and then the programmer would look at those user stories, like the user can move left to right to avoid many obstacles, and turns those into subtasks, like, oh, that means I need to make the user can move from left to right. That's a component on its own. There's an endpoint to levels. That's another task. Obstacles will spawn. That's another task. So once you get below the user story level, that's when you get like the very granular tasks. But it always starts by thinking about what a user is doing. So that's kind of the high-level overview of what, how you plan different tasks in a Agile setting. I was checking if that's my fridge beeping or if that's something outside. I think it's something outside. Oh, I forgot to check if there's anybody else trying to come in. That doesn't look like it. Okay, we're good. Let me get this picture bigger. Boom. So when there's so many like little Zoom windows that I can't move and they're just there in the way. Okay. So when you do a sprint, you plan so you plan all of your stories or your tasks. I'm not going to force you to do stories. You can make them tasks if you want. Just depends on how you want to work. You plan all your tasks that you're going to do into little sticky notes or digital. You have that collection now in your sprint backlog, your list of items you'd like to do this week. You then work on them over that week or 2 weeks, and you have daily stand-ups where you say, okay, this is what I am doing today. This is what I did yesterday. These are any problems I'm having. We're working on the things. We're moving them across from in progress to complete or to roadblock or whatever is going on. And as you complete those things, you reach the end of the sprint. It's the end of the 2 weeks. Boom. You now can look at where you've gotten and see what remained. And that helps you understand, oh, I thought that I could do this many tasks in a sprint, but it turns out I can only do 2/3 of it, or I was able to do more. So you can understand how fast you're moving. They call that the velocity of all the stickies you can go through. Then after everybody's finished that particular sprint, you have a retrospective. Everybody talks about, oh, this is what I think worked about that sprint. This is what I don't think worked. I usually just have happy face, sad face on a chalkboard, and I have people just write under each one of them. I have them each say one thing so that they can decide if they want to change anything for the next sprint. That's the point of Agile methodology is, oh, if you think something's not super working, like at Disney, the problem always was I thought I was going to have access to this particular thing, but then I wasn't, and I had to go through a bunch of red tape to get to some 3D model that was on some server, and I wasn't able to finish this task because Disney is a giant like geared cog wheel thing, and I could just never get anything done. So that's a typical thing that comes up in retrospective is like access or difficulty doing something that impeded you from finishing the task. But then you can also say things that work, like I did have difficulty getting that access, but then somebody made it really clear to me who I should talk to, or another thing could be like, we worked really well together this week. I think every week going forward, these types of tasks should go to us two people because it really worked. So retrospectives are targeting things that work and things that don't work. It's not about putting blame on people. It's about just saying, okay, for next sprint, for our next set of stories, how do we make it better? And then you just go through that cycle again. You make a new list of your sprint backlog based on all the stories you had, and bim, bam, boom. On a daily schedule, you'd expect, in the morning, if your sprint is only a week long, on the Monday, you would make all of you'd have a 2-hour meeting where you're setting up all your tickets or your tasks. Then you place them on a board because you're gonna work. You choose the ones you're gonna work on, and then from that, no meetings. Every day is just a stand up in the morning where you say, okay, this is what I did yesterday. This is what I'm gonna do today. These are my roadblocks. And story time, I believe in this context, is just getting an assessment for how fast you're moving and correcting anything you've missed. Like, we noticed that there's actually more stories that we need to get this to work. And then at the end for sprint review, that's where you figure out, okay, how fast did I move? And then this is what worked and this is what didn't over this particular sprint. So there's no meetings throughout the week that are really taking up a lot of time. That was the big problem with Waterfall for software development, is like every day is just 20 meetings. You like having to do producer work where you're in meetings all day, but you're not getting paid like a producer. And this is just kind of a visualization of what I was talking about with like columns or swim lanes, when you have a bunch of tasks and you have a board and you're moving things from left to right over the week. How does a task usually look? There's usually some sort of description that is like a user story where you're describing what the user can do. I can play a level by selecting it on the map. You have a category that it goes in, and that basically says who's going to work on it. You could also use a person's name if you know specifically who's going to work on it. Because, if it was gameplay, then somebody in the gameplay team is going to work on it. Someone in the artist team is going to work on it. But you could do anything. And then there's an estimate for how long it's going to take. They don't like using the term hours. They like using the term story points. But at the end of the day, 8 means it's going to be like a full day. 4 means it's going to be like half a day. And you make your estimates from there. There's lots of different examples I provide of what could be gameplay tasks and what could be artist tasks, like finalize the character art for whatever character, or gameplay, which are usually more story-like, are things like the level scrolls from left to right until I reach the goal. And the point of them being described this way is because there's a very clear way to know that it's done. When you play the game, does the level scroll from left to right and there's their goal at the end? That means this task is done. It's not nebulous. That's the important thing about task design. Not only does it keep a user in mind, but it has a clear finish point. Oh, you can move from left to right, good. And then there's the polish type of things, which would be the art side. Trello is a really good tool that I'd recommend using for this. It's free, and you can make your own little board, and you can just create quick cards, and they can get moved from left to right. You can make whatever columns you want. This Gears of Eternity, I think was this game's. Oh no, Gears of Eden. That was the thing I worked on really briefly, where they had like a 20-person remote team, so they had a lot of columns to sort stuff out. But I would just imagine having the backlog not started, because not started means you're going to do it this week, in progress and done, and you can like add users and assign people to it, like that has my name on it. You can add tags to it, so I want to look for all the red cards because that's the art team. It's nice. It's a little messy because it's just a bunch of cards floating around the screen, so you have to manage it. But it's a good way to do it for free. You can, of course, also use like a spreadsheet where you have just your things laid out, all of your tasks. You have the owner for it, and then you say whether it's done or not. So there's lots of different ways to do this. I do recommend the Trello route just because then you can drag stuff around. It's more fun. It's less annoying than Excel, but up to you. So what does this mean for you guys? I want every Friday at 9 a.m. before I start, I want you all to do your stand-ups. I want you to say, this is what we did last week. This is what we're doing this week. And this is these are the problems that we ran into so that I can help. Because I am the person who clears your roadblocks in this case. Usually be somebody on the team like, oh, we need Mitch from accounting to come in and do whatever. But in this case, it's going to be me. I'll be the one that helps break your roadblocks. So then what does a stand-up look like? Like I said, this is what was done this week. This is what's being done next week. And here are some difficulties we encountered. For people who are not attending, for all of you people who I'm sure watched my hour-long lecture after this and didn't make it to the class, I wonder how many people actually follow through the whole lecture and like don't skip around to when I hit particular slides. It is important to know that I'm going to make a weekly stand-up channel where remote people who aren't in these meetings can post and therefore participate. And so that I can know what's going on. I think there's only 2 teams that typically aren't around. Okay, what time am I at? Oh, I'm doing pretty good, okay. Game design, oh, does anybody have questions about this stuff? Going once. All good, okay. I don't know if you guys have worked on Agile stuff before, but Agile is just a nice way to get a lot of stuff done. Okay, part 2. Let's talk about game design documents. There are 2 chapters in this PDF here. I've also attached them in our assignment notes that help you write a design document. You're all about Scrum. There's defining a game's formal elements, which help you like lay out, oh, what are the rules to my game? And what are the boundaries? What are the mechanics, all that type of stuff. That's chapter 3. Chapter 14 actually gives you the breakdown of what is in a game design document. I use that often going forward. Oh, you're about to Scrum. Oh, I read that wrong first. Kids these days. Okay. Yeah, so I've created a template for you. It's at this link, and I've also attached it in our assignment where I took those chapters and I turned them into parts of our game design document, and I give you a little description, a little synopsis of what each one is. And so you already did the vision statement. You already talked about your audience a little bit. I think I asked you to talk about audience at one point. There's a gameplay section where you go through these. This is why the formal elements are important, is because the formal elements describe what these are. So don't just like guess at what your rules are. Like look at the little chapter snippet I gave you and make sure that what you're describing are actually rules and they're not something else. The flow charts you already worked on for sure. I believe there's also some game screens. Oh, interfaces, you've already worked on this quite a bit. So you already have a lot of it done. There's also optional sections. It depends on the game you're making. Sometimes this matters, sometimes it doesn't. Where you talk about characters. This is just I just took a screenshot from the chapter, so I didn't have to write all of it in because I'm lazy. But these are the types of things you can talk about. For characters, you can also talk about your story if it matters. So like, what's the backstory? What's the narrative devices you're going to use throughout the experience? Like, is it going to be told in media res, where like you start at the end and like it rewinds to the beginning? Are there any subplots that the user might not notice? And like, what's the main story that they're gonna experience? You could go through all that type of stuff. I'm not usually a story person. I'm more of a Nintendo type of approach where, you know, I want the fun game. I don't really care about the backstory. But you could also be a Kojima where you want everything to be super intricate and awesome. And that's both sides. There's no wrong answer. You can also talk a little bit about the world you're trying to build so that you can keep things in check, so that when you're making your story or making your level designs, you can keep in mind, oh, this is what I wanted for the world, so make sure I'm not adding anything that contradicts it. And then just an overall media list where in the end, as you're working on things, you just paste in, okay, here's a screen I made. Here are some buttons I made. Okay, here's some character art. Here's some links to some animation that I made. Or YouTube videos of animation I made. I don't stress that too much, however you present it. And here are some links to some music that I made and blah, blah, blah. This week, it was actually the first week that I saw music pop up, and that is accounted for in a game design document. So I hope that helps to get you kick-started on kind of working this all into a larger document. A splash image, by that I just mean like one big image that kind of represents your game. Could be the title screen, could be an action shot from the game. Just have one on the front page, because that's what the producer sees and goes like, oh, that's a cool game. I'm going to turn the page and read about it. So just making sure you have a nice looking splash image. So yeah, that is a document that I hope is useful to you. The link is both in this slide and it's attached in our course, right? I hope I did. Let's check out. Assignment. Okay, I didn't attach it yet. I will attach it. Actually, is it week 5? It's week 5, right? Hey, there it is. Game design document template. Okay, we're good. We're good. So that is the week in a nutshell. Let's talk about the assignments before everybody kind of spreads out and leaves me. Let me go to the first tab here. Okay. Whew. The assignment, obviously one of the you know how last week you had a list of things that you could do. This week, hold up. This week, it'll be another list of things that you can do. And one of them is going to be kind of bringing it all together in your game design document. And I do recommend that one. I'm not splitting it into things I do and don't recommend this time around, because I think they're all useful. And I trust y'all to make the good choices. So item one is update your game design document template that I'm providing to include all the things you've done so far, like the vision statement and some screens and all that stuff. And also, it's not just putting that stuff in, create one additional section. So fill out one additional section with what you're thinking. That could be the formal elements section, which counts as a separate thing because it is quite big. So not only would you be updating your game design document and adding a couple sections to it, you'd also be working on the formal elements, and you conquered two tickets right there. The formal elements include, let me see if I included the attachment. For some reason, my control tab's not working sometimes. It's really annoying. Why would you do this to me, Moodle? What are you doing? Let me open up assignment week 5. In assignment week 5, I got these 2 chapters. I'm going to click on the chapter 3. And chapter 3 literally talks about working with formal elements. You have players. You have, it's going to be in capitals. So they talk about all the different types of player interactions. And you just say, my game is multiple individual players playing in a game scenario, or it's a single player game, or it's player versus player, to specify what that is. And then read the rest of the chapter to make sure that you include some other discussion points, like, oh, it's cooperative or not. So players, objectives, and then they describe types of objectives like capture, chase, alignment, race, rescue, or escape, whatever it is. I think one person, the people working on the fairy game where you're rescuing the like Mother Earth fairies, which I'm butchering all the terms for it, but there's that type of gameplay style, which is the goal. And then, yeah, just read through all the different types of scenarios that you could be playing and act on it. So not only are there those, there's also procedures. The procedures are the steps that you take to play the game. There's rules. So when you're inside this game taking particular things, what can't you do? What are you allowed to do? And how do you like define points in the game? What resources are you dealing with? Like, is there a currency in the game? Are there lives? Is there ammo? Are there checkpoints? Those are resources. Just making sure I don't miss another. Conflict. Who's in conflict with what? What obstacles can they expect to face? And I'm just reading dilemmas real quick to make sure I don't misspeak. Oh, and what kind of difficult choices will they have to make to resolve the conflict? So some games won't have that difficult choice. Like they don't have these like giant metas of like, oh, you have to decide whether to collect resources and use them to build up your defenses or use them to build up your attack at the cost of your defense, like a city building game. What sort of boundaries do you have in your game also counts, like where can the player go? How are they allowed to traverse the terrain? Has an overlap with rules. And how do you decide the final outcome? How do you know who wins? And that, I think, is it, right? Yeah, that's it. So those are the formal elements. I invite you to read through the chapter to know what your game is, where it fits in kind of the tropes of these game design styles. And yeah, that is one thing you can work on this week. What else? Start creating all the prefabs for your game screens, like what we've done in the labs, where you have like the gameplay screen and the start menu screen, and they're their own prefabs. Start working on that stuff. Start laying them out. Excuse me. Oh man, my Tesla stock is crashing. It's been crashing all week. I've been getting alerts going like, it's lower, sell.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's all right. No, I purposely bought it because I saw that everything was crashing. So I'm like, oh, buy it. And then when it goes back up to $900 or whatever, I'll be a wealthy man.
Whoa, hell yeah.
$300, that's wealth. Okay, so you can start, we love money in this house. We can start scoping out your prefabs for the game. You can create some stand-in scenes that represent various modes of your game. So not only having UI, but having the 3D objects or the 2D objects, whatever it is you're going to use. We actually made a discovery. Was that with you, Mercy? Yesterday when we were going like, oh, why can't we add 2D elements?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you see that you can't add 2D elements to your game, like right-click 2D character or sprite or whatever, it's because you need to have the little 2D mode setting enabled. I didn't realize they had that restriction.
It's so
that's
weird.
The thing.
It makes me mad.
That's Unity.
Yeah.
So you could start creating all your stand-ins, like adding some scripts and stuff, and put it like just as player. It could be an empty script, but like you're gonna need it. So like start setting that stuff up. Fix problems identified in previous submissions. Like, oh, I see that when I change my screen size to like an iPhone 7, all this stuff goes off the screen. You could start trying to fix those problems using the tools I recommend in some of the labs and some of my other videos where I show how to do layouts that work on different screens. You could just plan all the basic scripts you're going to need. And to plan, not only do you just make scripts, but you could start making flowcharts for how you think the logic is going to work for a particular script. So it's very similar to the flowcharts you've already made, but it would be for like an enemy behavior. The enemy moves up and down. Have they hit the player? No, then keep moving up and down. If the enemy goes off screen, then disappear. That could be a flowchart. So if you start making flowcharts, it makes your programming a lot easier because you know exactly what you need to do and you've done it visually. You could, I added this from last week because was it Melissa worked on audio? Somebody worked on audio. And I said, yeah, that's perfectly fine. And I forgot to include it. So I have added it. You can iterate on the artwork, sound, or music or whatever to move toward a higher fidelity prototype. Or you can research on your own, find tutorials that you want to do, and act on them. You can take them. I recommend Unity tutorials. They have a lot of good stuff. They even have like how to make Flappy Bird in there and how to make an infinite runner and all that type of stuff. The other option is get everybody on GitHub, talk with me, and we'll sit down and we'll figure it out. I think I've helped a few people this week with GitHub questions, and I'm always happy to continue helping. And I forgot to include my lab, but I'll pop over to the lab and we'll talk about that before the end of class here. And while I'm here, let me pull up my syllabus, because I believe next week might be Flex Week. Does every class have Flex Week at the same time?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not this upcoming week, it's the week after, yeah.
Let me verify
Is
that.
that true?
Like the week of the
Classes that have already had it.
Ooh, I don't
no,
think
there's
it's supposed to
like
be that way.
There's a pause day that I define, and I say,
Yeah.
oh, I'll do a pause day then.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking of. I got them sort of mushed together.
And then there's a Flex Week. It's because both are weird, and I don't understand why they need to exist. It's like, I'm only allowed to care about the students' well-being these 2 weeks, and then
no other weeks.
Like,
Well,
it's
I
just
think
such a weird way to design.
the reason they included them this semester is because last semester we had pretty much no breaks at all, and everyone was kind of in pain, and they took away spring break because they want to like discourage people from going out and traveling, I guess, but they wanted people to still be able to like not
Don't
pass
travel.
away.
This is craziness. But okay, yeah. So week 7, March 19th. Okay, so I got some time.
Yeah.
Okay, so Flex Week, I'm gonna bring in one of my brother-in-law who worked at BioWare and worked at a few other places, and we're just gonna have a fireside chat with them and see what's up. I might also bring in some students I used to work with who I used to teach, who now work at or they worked with the Shovel Knight team.
Oh my God!
So
really?
I'll bring some of them in. They seemed open to chatting, and yeah, hopefully they'll be available that day. So cool. I'll have them pop over, and we'll see how that goes. But it is not that date yet. It is still March 5th, so we got some time. I got to remember to talk to them and my brother-in-law. Okay, so let me pull up the lab. It's like the Zoom windows are always as in the way as possible. Week 5, lab. Okay, so the lab this week is making a basic inventory system. I have part 1 out of 2 here. If I click on this, let's see if it gives you both videos. It's a 2-parter. This is pretty big. It's a programming task. So it's not, for those who want to do it and want to step through a relatively large programming task, feel free to take it. It's the primary lab. There's also a problem. I completely admit I did the thing where halfway through an implementation, I went, actually, I kind of like it more this way. And I change it, I think during the second lab, just a little bit, just like a data type so that it's easier to manage in the editor so you can like fill stuff out. I admit I do that and I apologize. But this is an inventory system. It could be used in many ways. It's basically just adding things to a list of inventory items And that could be added by, I have Jumpy Cube hit a little ball collectible and it adds it to his inventory. But you could also do it programmatically, like type out the inventory to be, say, a deck of cards. A deck of cards is an inventory. There's many things you could do with it. And I tried to make it as generic as possible so it could be adapted for everybody's assignment depending on what they need. It doesn't specifically have strength and defense and those types of variables. It has the variables that you can define, and that's why it got I kind of changed my mind halfway through, is because I figured out a better way to do that while I was making it. I apologize. And then the second half of the lab is creating a user interface that automatically loads your inventory and populates a little grid. So those are the two halves. I invite you to try it. Do the first half, and if you find out it's too much, just turn that first half in. But if you're having a good time doing it, I don't know why you'd be having a good time, but if you're having a good time doing it, do the second half. I invite you to it. It's a lot of fun if you want to learn about inventory systems. And then I provided you with some alternate lab ideas, which are not as crazy. There are items on your group project that I invite you to keep doing. Like so I say 3 to 5 items on that list of your homework. You could do 7 items and turn in a couple of them as your lab. Or you could do 5 items, because I say 3 to 5. You could do 3 for your homework and 1 or 2 for your lab. Don't care. You're getting work done. That's what I care about. You could do some different online tutorials that you find online and you want to do. I think a few people did that this week. I'm pretty sure Sarah, you had one, right?
One what again? Sorry.
A tutorial that you took online.
Oh yeah, I did the like how to do like a start menu.
Yeah, and was that helpful? Was that pretty good?
Pretty good.
Okay.
It was very simple, so.
Yeah, so everybody find tutorials doing stuff in Unity or doing something for your group project that you think will help you learn. And if I go through it and I go, okay, I approve it, you're good, then do it. That counts as a lab. Other online tutorial ideas I just came across this week because I've been doing a little bit of research for the various projects. I saw how to detect finger swipes. So I could imagine for the dancing monkey game, monkey see, monkey dance, knowing the swipes of the finger might be useful. I saw a card flipping memory game series where there's a bunch of face down cards and you can click on cards and they flip over, and it's a matching game. So, you have to get 2 of a kind, heart and heart, and that passes. So you could do that to learn how to make a system like that. And then add in your custom art if you want. I think that would be for Anjanette's group, right? Angels. Sorry, Angel. I'm like, I always want to say, because the name it says
name.
I always want to say the name on Moodle, and I'm like, I know it's not that name, and then I take a moment.
Yeah, I'm working
that
with the new name change policy to try to get it changed so it's my actual name, but Anjanette is my new favorite nickname. Thank you very much.
Well, Anjanette is now your nickname. No. Of course, it's Angel. I'm sorry, Angel. It's like Moodle makes my life miserable because like a third of the names are not correct. So we will, petition Moodle or the school and do what you're gonna do. Oh, you got your name changed? Awesome. Okay, so card flipping minigame, that might be useful for you and for your team if somebody wants to step through it. A rhythm game series. I saw a few online. This one was useful in the sense of getting a feel for how to do things and how to make a music minigame. Are any of these, was this Alex's group? Who was working on the
It's me and I don't think Christy's ever actually on here, but yeah, it's me and Christy.
Okay, yeah, so you and Christy. I found this one. This one might be useful for you to take. It comes with the catch of this person set it up so that he uses his keyboard to like up, down, left, right to do, like you can even see it here because it's like a DDR type of thing. But you could easily make it just when I press that blue button or that red button, it's the same difference. I can of course step you through it. You go through the rhythm game tutorial and then I would pop in and go, oh, and if you wanted it to work differently, this is how you do it. Or find a different rhythm game tutorial online. I invite you to do it. I think you have one of the more difficult tasks because I've never worked on a rhythm game series. So this is the one where I'm like, I don't actually know how I would accomplish that. I looked at a few YouTube videos and I thought this one seemed the most reasonable and flexible, but find whichever one you like. Where's my research? I had one where I was like, this one seems pretty pro, and you can download the package afterward to compare like your code with theirs. And I also saw one that looked a bit hacky. So, so this one was, where do they end up with? This one was more like scrolling like this, which I thought matched your vision style more. But they kind of did things a little differently. But yeah, so either one of these, I'll even post this one in somewhere for you, just so you have access to it. They both work. So yeah, feel free to go through that. That's just a suggestion. I'm not saying you have to. And then somebody else is working on an idle game, right? Who's working on an idle game? I remember that term coming up last week, so I plopped this in here. No one here, dang. Somebody was working on an idle game. So, not idle, where things happen over time. Where things happen over time. So like you've probably played those type of games where like you leave it idle for a while. When you come back, you can collect a bunch of coins, and then that like gets applied to, yeah, like Cookie Run. Yeah. So if anybody's interested in that type of play style, that's definitely a mobile thing because mobile games, you're not looking at the phone all the time. You have a put down, all that type of thing. And you want to have economies. That's definitely one way to do it. So these are a bunch of tutorials I think might be useful. For my primary lab, I do provide all my code for your sanity. And yeah, that's it. Does anybody have suggestions or not suggestions? I'm the suggester. Does anybody have questions for the homework or lab or the presentation, all that type of stuff? Oh, no problem. No problem. The other thing I should add as a valid, something that you should do, I could add it to the assignment for this week, is creating all of your tasks, like making something on Trello and making your own little board so that you can move tasks left and right. I'm not actually going to move this because this is my work, but creating your list of tasks. Let me add that to the assignment. But yeah, while I'm doing that, feel free to ask me questions. We got 4 minutes before a bunch of people bail on me. Where'd that assignment go? Here it is.
I have some questions.
Of course.
In my group, I'm supposed to be doing scripts. Could you help me convert some of the scripts that they have in the tutorials to what I need, like at least the language wise?
Yes. Which tutorial were you planning on taking?
I was going to try to like get a list of like videos and then show you them.
Yeah, I'm having a brain fart. Like, which one is your project? Sorry.
The fairy one.
Fairy one. Okay. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yes, I can help you with that.
Okay.
Set up your Trello board and make your user stories or task list. Assign each person tasks and slide them from columns to done over time. I count this as a valid thing to work on, so I'll add that to my list of things. Okay, so your question number one is, can I help you? And the answer is yes. I do invite you to take the Flappy Bird Unity Learn. I think Unity Learn had a Flappy Bird tutorial.
Yeah, like I know like the tutorials I sent you for like approval stuff, like there was one that was basically had move up and down, kind of like this forum thing. I just gotta figure out how to like incorporate that into the code that is Flappy Bird to see how I can switch it around.
Yeah, to make it like follow your finger instead, right?
So it's not like constant tapping because oof, no.
Yeah, there are ways we can get around that. I'll make a little mini. Maybe I'll do a little mini this week about this is how you get the finger position and you have a character follow your finger. Actually, the sticker does that. The sticker one from last week, that lab would be how you follow the finger.
Oh, okay.
Right? I think it would. It just wouldn't behave like a sticker where like it comes up and goes down. It would just follow your finger. That would work. Do you want it to move from right to left across the screen, or would it only follow like on one axis?
Yes.
If I did this, would it move like that?
Up and down.
Okay, cool. So let's we can powwow about that at some point. Set up a meeting with me, and we'll talk about how to make that code happen.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. What other questions do you have for me? And also, some of you have to get out of here, I believe. It's 9:59.
Here we.
Yeah, bye, Justin. Have a good one.
Yep. Peace, y'all.